Public transportation is so great. I mean, think about it. You don't have to drive. And if you don't have to drive, well, you don't have a car, right? And you don't have to worry about gas. Gas is pretty expensive. And so is insurance and parking. I mean, you might as well walk, right? That's pretty close. So yeah, I love public tRaNSpO. Don't you? From Tokyo, Japan, Midwest and the Far East. But sometimes I do miss driving, which is why I get so mad when I see this kind of crap. Alright, so they're probably not abandoned in the sense that nobody owns them. I mean, somebody probably owns them, but why aren't they driving them anymore? And if they don't need them, why don't they just sell it or throw it away? So actually I did a little bit of research online to see if there's any discussion about this, and I did. I found this thread about this guy. He basically asked the same question, why are these really expensive cars just sitting around and gathering rust? They had a bunch of answers, but the answers were pretty harsh actually. One guy, he said, はっきり言って古い中古の高級外来車は全く価値ありません。外車はゴミ。What? Well, it turns out it's pretty much comes down to maintenance. Japan actually has a different kind of system than the US, right? So in the US, if you buy a car, you can basically drive that car as long as you have a license until it just falls apart. You could say you don't have to, nothing goes wrong, you don't have to maintain, there's no maintenance that needs to be done. You could ride that car for a decade and no one would say a thing, as long as it runs, right? As long as all the lights are on, as long as smoke's not coming out of the back, you're good. So in Japan, it's a little bit different actually. So if you buy a car, so if you buy any car, it could be new, it could be used, you are actually subject to what they call shaken. And shaken is mandatory inspection. And mandatory inspection, if there are no problems, it just costs that inspection fee. But if there are problems, will cost plus that maintenance, parts and maintenance. So it's done actually after you buy your brand new car or old car every single year. Except for a new car, I think the first time it's after 2 years. But after that, it's every single year. And just if there's nothing, if there are no problems with your car, just the inspection fee alone is about $500. And it kind of depends on the size of the engine, but it'll go from between $300 and, in the case of the Maserati, about $1,500. That's just the inspection fee. On top of that, if you're gonna add in the parts and then the maintenance for those parts, even a Japanese car would possibly need about another $500 to $1,000 a year just in maintenance for shaken. And that's just during shaken time. So you got to think, okay, well, what about outside of that as well? What if something goes up, one of the lights blows or speakers or something, you want to do something on the car, it's going to cost extra. And that's on my little dinky car. I know I was paying hundreds of dollars a year just to do other regular maintenance. On the Maserati, for example, you could easily see, in addition to the $1,500 shaken basic fee, you could see up to $5,000 in maintenance fees. There was actually I had to do a paint job on a car just the paint job, and this was a Tesla paint job, that was $3,000. And you have to do it every single year. As a general rule of thumb, you can expect cars that were not Japanese cars to cost between 10 and 30% at least. I mean, that's an average more than a Japanese car would to maintain. I think the last answer in that thread sums up the conversation perfectly. He said, even if it's beat up, a K-truck that can move is worth more. It even costs money to throw your car away. Some cars, it could cost up to $800 just to toss. It's nuts, right? Which brings us back to our buddy the Mustang here. So My guess is what happened with this Mustang is that the owner actually came into a little bit of money, decided to buy a cool import car, and then fix it up a little bit, you know, took it out on a couple of races and actually got into a little fender bender. Fixing the fender bender was going to cost too much, so he let it sit. And then after letting it sit for a while, realized, you know, what am I paying shotgun for? And stopped paying shotgun, which meant he couldn't drive it, which meant it just sat out in the sun, getting in worse and worse condition. And the worse the condition it got, the more it would cost to fix it up. So no one was going to buy it. So what happens? It just sits here. Well, then what about just throwing it out? Forget about it. Throwing it out would just cost money anyway. And maybe he owns this parking lot. So there you go. That's why this Mustang is going to be here probably forever. So what do you think? I think it's such a waste. Like, we got great cars just sitting around, just dying, you know? Anyone would want to ride one of these things, even if they're old. Like, I would love to ride one of those. But I guess I'm just one of the poor people out there that wouldn't mind having even an old sports car. But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about this. There's something that needs to be done. Do you have any ideas? Is there something that I can do to get these cars to you or something? I walk by some of those cars every single day, and I just think, I wish there was something we could do about this, because it's just so sad to see these beautiful sports cars just be forgotten. Anyway, if you like this video, give me a like. That's how I know that you like the kind of content that I put out here. And actually, if you subscribe, it gives me even more motivation. That's what I live for. And until next time, I'll see you later. From the Far East, ciao.